Hello, everyone. This is my presentation about fats, and my name is Logan Lagarde. So today I will be talking about lipids and fats, cholesterol, tallow, lard, butter, and margarine, different types of oils, disease prevention, and nutrition recommendations. So starting off with the basics, lipids are fats, oils, cholesterol, fatty acids, and they're the building block of our fat cells, also known as adipose tissue. What is a saturated fat? This is a fatty acid with no double bonds. Therefore, all of the carbon atoms are saturated with hydrogens. These fats are solid at room temperature, and some examples are butter, coconut oil, and cheese. What is an unsaturated fat? This is a fatty acid that has at least one double bond between two of its carbon atoms. Therefore, it is not saturated by hydrogen atoms. These fats are liquid at room temperature. Some examples are sunflower, olive, and avocado oil. So the types of saturated fats, there's monosaturated. This is a fatty acid with one double bond. Let me move my, okay. And then polyunsaturated, this is a fatty acid with more than one double bond. And there are two essential fatty acids, two essential polyunsaturated fatty acids, which mean that we have to eat these in our diet. That is the linoleic fatty acid, which is omega-6 and has two double bonds, and then linolenic, which is an omega-3 fatty acid, and it has three double bonds. And if you don't eat these in your diet, you can get skin rashes, improper growth, hair loss, and improper healing. So this image in the top right corner, you can see a saturated fat. All of the carbons have a single bond between them, and so all of their other bonds are saturated with hydrogens. And then the monounsaturated just has one double bond. And so those carbons are not saturated with hydrogens. And then polyunsaturated has more than one double bond. So kind of to simplify that for the participants, if a participant asks you what saturated and unsaturated fats are, I would simplify it by saying a saturated fat is solid at room temperature like butter, and an unsaturated fat is liquid at room temperature like olive oil. Oops. So trans fats and cis fats, these are types of unsaturated fats. And so a cis double bond, that causes there to be a bend. And then a trans double bond does not. It's just like a straight chain. So trans fats are when the hydrogens are on the opposite side of the double bond, and then cis fats are naturally occurring, and this is where the hydrogen bonds are on the same side of the double bond, and it causes a kink or curve in the fatty acid. Triglycerides are important, and they consist of glycerol and three fatty acids, and you can see that in the image in the bottom. So our bodies store extra energy as triglycerides in fat cells or adipose tissue. Triglycerides can be found in oils, nuts, seeds, fatty fish, avocados, butter, and lard. Not only are triglycerides important for energy storage, but they can be broken down and used as fuel for our bodies when we are in need of energy. They are important for the transportation of fat-soluble vitamins in the bloodstream, and they are important for insulation and protection of our internal organs. So what is cholesterol? There's HDL and LDL. So HDL stands for high density lipoprotein. This is known as the good cholesterol because it helps to remove cholesterol from the body by carrying it in the bloodstream back to the liver for processing and removal from the body. And having high levels of HDL is associated with a decreased risk of heart disease. It has a higher density of proteins. Low density lipoprotein is known as the bad cholesterol. because high levels can lead to plaque buildup and an increased risk of heart disease, clots, and stroke. This lipoprotein carries cholesterol from the liver to the body, and it has a higher density of fats. So some images in the bottom, you can see the LDL, has like that plaque buildup in the blood vessel. And then the image on the right kind of shows that HDL brings the cholesterol back to the liver, and then LDL takes it from the liver to the cells in our body. Why are fats important? It's the recommendation for fat is 20 to 35% of energy intake. It is a source of energy storage in our body. It helps with insulation. It helps with satiety, which helps to slow gastric emptying. It is the main component of the cell membrane, which is the phospholipid bilayer. So all of our cells have fat within their cell membranes. Synthesis of bile acid, our liver, and then bile duct, and gallbladder. And then it helps to make vitamin D in our bodies, and it's important for the transportation of fat-soluble vitamins in the bloodstream and the myelin sheath around our nerves. So something I would suggest when you talk to the participants about MyPlate, I know that like fats are not mentioned on MyPlate, but I would suggest bringing them up with the participants and just kind of talking like, hey, fats are important to eat. Like you don't want to just completely cut them out of your diet, and maybe ask them like, what are some sources of fats that you eat, and kind of, make it conversational. So trans fats, something about trans fats, is that they are banned. So the FDA banned them a few years ago. And the FDA allows small traces to be in foods without having to put it on the nutrition label. It is illegal for manufacturers to add trans fats to the food, but trans fats might be created during the frying process. So fried chicken, French fries, and donuts may have trans fats. Trans fats can increase LDL and lower HDL, which can lead to an increased risk of heart disease, stroke, atherosclerosis, blood clots, and type 2 diabetes. Trans fats can naturally be found in some animal products from cows, sheep, and goats. They are produced by bacteria in their digestive systems. The FDA banned partially hydrogenated oils in 2018, which was a major source of artificial trans fats. This is a process that adds hydrogens to unsaturated fats, which creates trans fats and saturated fats. Some examples, fats from beef, lamb, milk, butter, and cheese. So if the participants ask you, are saturated fats good or bad for you? My take would be that it's neutral. So it like used to be thought, and kind of what I learned when I was in college was that saturated fats are bad for you. But some recent studies kind of show that they kind of might be neutral, or they might be good for you. So this quote from one study that I found, and there's these links here if you want to click on them and read the studies. The recommendation to limit dietary saturated fat intake has persisted despite mounting evidence to the contrary. Most recent meta-analyses of randomized trials and observational studies found no beneficial effects of reducing saturated fatty acid intake on cardiovascular disease and total mortality, and instead found protective effects against stroke. So this article is kind of saying that saturated fats actually might be good for you. There's a study done in 2024 that suggests that saturated fats from dairy instead of from meats can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. And coconut oil has a lot of saturated fats in it, and it's generally recommended to cook with olive oil or avocado oil instead. I personally would say that saturated fats are necessary to eat, but they're kind of neutral whether they're good or bad for you. Um, and kind of my my little quote here about coconut oil and olive oil and avocado oil. Avocado oil and avocado oil and olive oil, those are higher in unsaturated fats, which it's really healthy to eat a lot of unsaturated fats. That's kind of why it's recommended to cook with those. Okay, so omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. So linolenic, which is omega-3, and linoleic, which is omega-6, must be eaten in our diet. Omega-3 fatty acids are found in salmon, mackerel, tuna, sardines, flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts, flaxseed oil, soybean oil, and canola oil. Omega-6 fatty acids are found in grapeseed oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, walnuts, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, and pecans. Having a higher ratio of omega-6 fatty acids to omega-3 fatty acids is associated with an increased risk of heart disease and cancer. Um, and I got that from this article that's linked here that you can click on it and read about it. So basically, we want to try to eat more omega-3 fatty acids rather than omega-6, but it is important to eat both. Okay, so some different kinds of oils. Um, so this chart here on the left kind of shows the dark red is saturated fats, the orange is monounsaturated fatty acids, and then the yellow is polyunsaturated fatty acids. So usually we want to try to consume more unsaturated fats. So the oils towards the bottom of this chart or of this graph are more recommended. When cooking with oil, you don't want to cook above its smoke point. Um, so this chart on the right um, has like the smoke point of all the different oils. Um, and something I want to point out, when it says like inflammatory next to these, there's not really a lot of evidence to show, cooking with different oils may be inflammatory, because we're getting it in like small amounts. If we were to, like drink an entire bottle of these oils that are higher in omega-6 fatty acids, um, then it could be pro-inflammatory, um, having it in like larger quantities. Okie dokie. So what is lard? Lard is a type of cooking fat that is made from rendered pork fat. It's the liquid fat gets melted and is separated from the solid parts. Lard is a semi-solid white fat that is used in cooking, baking, and frying. It can be used to add flavor and flakiness to pie crusts and sausages, for example. It is 100% fat, and lard contains saturated fats, unsaturated fats, and has a good omega-3 to omega-6 ratio and has vitamin D. It's similar to butter, but has less vitamin A and E and has more calories. So if a participant, kind of were to ask you like, oh, should I cook with lard or should I cook with butter? They're both pretty similar. They're a little bit different nutritionally. Like this says lard has more calories and has a little less vitamins. Um, but other than that, pretty neutral, pretty equal. I personally wouldn't really say one is healthier than the other. And lard is very common within like Hispanic culture. They cook a lot with it. So, kind of and a, a lot of our participants are, Hispanic. So it might be hard to kind of tell them, oh, like don't cook with this thing that you cook a lot with. Because it's not necessarily unhealthy. What is tallow? Tallow is usually rendered from beef or mutton. You melt the liquid fat from the solid fat. It can be used in frying and roasting. It can also be used to make soap, candles, skincare, and lubrication for leather making. It's high in saturated fats, but contains fat-soluble vitamins and has more unsaturated fats than butter. So I would consider this healthier than butter. What is butter? Butter is a dairy product that is made by turning milk to separate the fat from the liquid components. It is about 80% fat and 20% water and milk solids. It's a fat and water emulsion, meaning that tiny water droplets are dispersed within the fat. Butter is high in calories and saturated fats, but contains vitamins. Butter versus margarine. So margarine is made from vegetable oils, water, and salt. And margarine has more calories, but it is higher in unsaturated fats and is cholesterol free. Um, so, kind of pros and cons of both of these. And this chart here kind of shows, different levels of each of these nutrients in each of them. Okay, so disease prevention. So primary prevention, this is when we try to prevent a disease before it occurs. So we can, recommend to our participants to replace unhealthy fats with healthy ones. So eating more unsaturated fats, focusing on eating more omega-3 fatty acids, adopting healthy eating patterns, and maintaining a healthy weight. Those can help, prevent heart disease. Secondary prevention, this is early detection and management to prevent progression. So we can control existing risk factors. So someone with high cholesterol, eating healthy fats and more fiber and less trans fats. And just trying to eat less cholesterol overall. And then tertiary prevention, this is managing existing disease to reduce impact and improve outcomes. So if you have heart disease or diabetes, it's important to eat more omega-3 fatty acids and more unsaturated fats. Some nutrition recommendations. So trans fats have no health benefits and there's no safe level of consumption. So try to avoid them as much as possible. The USDA dietary guidelines says that 20 to 35% of our daily calories should come from fat, with more coming from unsaturated fats. We want to try to avoid fried foods. And if you are going to buy meat, buy lean meat instead of fatty meat. Eating more omega-3 fatty acids than omega-6 fatty acids will be beneficial. And eating more unsaturated fats like olive or avocado oil, nuts, seeds, avocados, and fatty fish like salmon. Something you can tell the participants, there's often like peanut butter, almond butter, sunflower butter at food banks. So that can be a healthy option for fats. And if chia or flax seeds are available, those are a great way to increase omega-3 fatty acids. They have a really good ratio of like more omega-3 fatty acids than omega-6 fatty acids. So they're a good option, but they might be expensive, so they might not be available for everyone. These are my references. Thanks for watching.